Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Week at Crossroads. My name is Jake Christie. I'm here with Caden and Jacob.
Yo, let's go.
Yeah, we are this week talking about the spiritual discipline of simplicity.
So this podcast can be short.
Yes.
2
So
minutes.
we're done now.
Exactly.
Thank you. Get off your phone. No, I'm kidding.
Got him.
But hey, this is exciting. We got Pastor Jacob preaching this weekend, which is really, really exciting. How do you feel about it?
I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel it's one of those things. So one thing that a lot of people don't ever realize, obviously, if we've never preached before, that preaching is such a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
That like it's really. Yeah, you can prepare as much as you want. You can get all of your notes down and practice it over and over and over again. But in reality, it's just letting God speak through you. And so I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited about this topic too. Like, I think it's one that is so important. I think it's one that doesn't get talked about a whole lot, and yet is really crucial for how we just live as followers of Jesus. Like, it's not, yes, it's an outward thing. Like, simplicity is an outward way that we live, but it's built on being content in the Lord. And it's just built on this foundation of loving the Lord and loving him above everything else. And I think that's just such an important thing and something I'm really passionate about. So yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear you preach on it. You guys will be watching this after you've heard the message, but if you haven't heard it, you can stay right here on the YouTube channel and go over to the live section where you can watch the message from this past weekend. So make sure you're keeping up with what's going on. You can always go back and rewatch old messages and things that you missed. Everything you can find right here. So guys, thank you for joining me today. I really, really do appreciate it. We hope that this podcast has been a blessing to you guys as we've talked through some of these spiritual disciplines and maybe even, broken down these spiritual disciplines a little bit more after the messages on Sundays. And so again, I appreciate you guys being here, being a part of this, and we'll do this more in the future. I'm really, really excited to continue this podcast. So cool. Well, let's jump into simplicity. Jacob, you are preaching on it this weekend, and you kind of gave us a little bit of a breakdown there for a second.
Totally
Can you just
spoiled the whole message.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Can you give us a maybe like the definition you're going to be using for this weekend's message?
Yeah. I think overall for simplicity, again, it's something we don't talk about a whole lot, so we kind of need to define it. It's living with less because Jesus is all that we need. It's living with less because Jesus is all that we need. It's setting aside the more. I think you don't have to look very far to realize that our world is chasing more constantly. Like, we're constantly just bombarded with this message that more is the answer, more is better, more is what life is all about. Like any commercial you see, it's just letting you know what you don't have. Yeah. You pull out your phone, you scroll on Instagram or on Facebook, and it's just reminder after reminder of what you don't have. Yeah. And then it's also never been easier for us to get what we want like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Prime Day was horrible for me, yo. Like, I bought so many things. Oh dude, it's so bad. I returned a lot, but it's whatever. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So, but with that, like we naturally, I think we've, in a lot of ways, the enemy has caused us to fall for that trap of chasing more instead of chasing Jesus, and making life all about what can I add to my life? Like, what's one more thing I can get, one more thing I can do, one more accomplishment I can put on my resume or on my life bio when I'm done. And what happens is we become caught in the rat race. Our life becomes so complicated. Every corner of our life is full, and yet we still feel empty. Yeah. We still feel this void that we were constantly needing more. Enough is never enough. Right. And with simplicity, what it is it's setting aside those things. It's giving up the chase for more because we're content in the Lord, because he is enough for us. And it's just allowing every purchase we make, every experience that we chase, everything we do to be filtered by worshiping him and just being content in him.
Oh, that's so good. Caden, did you have any thoughts?
I mean, just around the definition is incredible. I'm excited to see what the Lord does in and through this. And simplicity, I would agree, is one of the most probably skipped over spiritual disciplines. It's weird to even think of it as a discipline, like something that and I don't know, maybe in reference and drawing back to my message a couple of weeks ago, like the push for disciplines, even this series, isn't just for the sake of feeling good about our Christianese and knowing the things we should be doing. Like,
Right.
these should actually radically change and transform the way that we live our lives. And so
Yeah.
I'm stoked to get to unpack this together and work through this topic. And again, just in prayer that for us as a church, like, we're all benefiting and growing from this, not just as, okay, we're consuming these ideas of this content, but how does it actually change and transform our life?
Right.
And more than that, what are the biblical truths that surround these ideas? Because even throughout this whole series, we sat down as a teaching team before this series started and looked at the biblical precedent that was set for spiritual disciplines.
Right.
It wasn't Pastor Andrew leading, hey, I think these things are cool and here's what I do in my life.
Right.
It wasn't Pastor Jesse or Pastor Chris. It was literally, what does the Word of God say?
Yeah.
How are we aiming to live as followers of Jesus, and how do we equip our church to do that? So that's really been my prayer the last couple of weeks through this series.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, disciplines imply practice.
Yeah.
And so I think that this one, being towards the latter half, is interesting because it's maybe one that I feel like I see a lot of people really either just totally ignore or way overcorrect.
Yeah.
Way overcorrect. And I think that, like, you can see a lot of people like just get stuck in that rat race, kind of like what you were talking about, of just wanting more, needing more. I have to achieve that thing in order to be complete. And I do think that there is something important about ambition. I think God calls us to be ambitious and to strive and to be able to set goals and achieve them. That is being a good steward of what He's given us.
Yeah.
But then there's also, again, the overcorrection of I can't focus on God at all unless I've totally taken everything out of my life. And we have entire, like, sects of religions that are focused on that, with like the Amish or the Mennonite or people like that are really just trying to live as simply as possible, but to the point of totally separating themselves from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And that inevitably does not spread the gospel. And so my question for you guys is, how do you go about practicing simplicity in your life? And when you're having a hard time with it, especially I think as young men, I think this is important for us to talk about a lot, because we're in that early life stage, a little bit of, like, we're establishing our families, we're having young children, we're getting our careers started. We have all these, like, ambitious goals that we have in mind for ministry, and even like with our bodies and, like, personal strength and all this stuff and health. How do you guys make sure that you are living simply and focused on the Lord, and implementing that as a discipline in your life? Caden, I'd love to hear from you first.
Sure.
That's right.
This is one of those battles that I think is ongoing for all of us. But I think even just to touch on what you said a second ago, the extremes that we find ourselves in, I think it has to boil down to the Lord's conviction in our heart. Because sometimes the simplicity God is calling us to is those extremes.
You sure?
And sometimes it's the simplicity that I've seen, wealth and prosperity that feels the antithesis of simple, but the Lord has convicted them, and the things that we don't see because of their wealth is actually a really simple life. And so it ultimately just stems from and boils down to conviction. For me, when it comes to simplicity, it's funny, my dad and I talk about this a lot, that he's at a spot, and for Riley and I, we've been blessed specifically financially with means that the Lord has provided for us, that there's most things that if we want or need, we're able to just go buy. And we don't necessarily have to feel the weight of those purchases, right? That's a huge blessing.
Yeah.
Simplicity for us comes from, here's what will happen. I go into a store. I'll find like 4 or 5 things I'm going to buy. Give me 15 minutes to walk around the store. Those things will not be in my hand 15 minutes later. Like, if I just have the time to walk around with them and I go in every time, I'm going to buy something. I'll even set the conversation with, Riley, don't let me leave without buying something. I go in, I'll pick out something, walk around with it long enough to be like, I don't need another pair of shoes or another full set of golf clubs. Like, I don't I have one set of golf clubs. I don't have multiple. But the idea, right, being is, honestly, I think that's part of simplicity for me, is in those spaces that I just have the time to look at what it is I'm pursuing. I have this realization that this doesn't add any more value. This doesn't change anything more about my day-to-day life.
Amen.
This is a retail therapy that ultimately eliminates the probably the genesis of this message, simplicity being, the more that I have, the less Jesus I pursue. So if I rid myself of this, Lord, what is it that you've already given me that I can rest in and celebrate in? How about I just look at simply the fact that, God, you've given me the financial means to go and buy what it is that I would desire. That's a simple life for me, where God, you've blessed me abundantly, and we're faithfully committed to you in and through that. The simple life says, all right, I don't need to.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, and I think it's appropriate. I think Ecclesiastes also talks about enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Totally. Yep.
But I think for my wife and I, and specifically our family, we've gotten to the point where simplicity for us looks a lot more like the experiences we create rather than the things we buy.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the shift we've had recently. Is trips are so much more important to us, and we've borderline lamented on the earlier days in ministry where we were taking 27-hour car rides from Minnesota to Florida with a van full of 8 people.
Yeah.
And it was like the epitome of maybe chaos at its finest.
Yeah.
It's like, man, sometimes I just miss those moments. Simple. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that I have a great answer around what it looks like for the general of the majority. I think it just comes back to, man, where is the Lord convicting your heart, and what does it look like practically for each of us?
Yeah. Because it could be, it is different for everybody. I mean, and I think
100%.
because the Lord knows our hearts. I mean, He knows what we can and can't handle well.
Yeah.
You know, like I think you hit the nail on the head where it's like there are some people that maybe it might be viewed as non-simplistic because they have a lot of stuff or a lot of things, or even have accumulated a lot of wealth, but maybe the Lord has given them the gift to be able to accumulate wealth to bless other people.
We had a family at our church in Nebraska who God had blessed them radically financially.
Yeah.
And they had built an expensive home, to say the least. And you see the home that they have, and it looks exactly what you're talking about, like the opposite of what simple is.
Sure.
But then you find out this family of 8 had lived in an 1,800 square foot home for the first 10 years of marriage and with kids. They had 2 sets of not bunk beds, but 3 stacked. They had 6 kids.
Wow.
And as they built this house, they literally donated their last house.
Wow.
Like a means of, okay, God, you bless us. We want to just be the blessing. And that's simple. And I think the thing that I also love, and this is probably one of the biggest telltale signs of a simple life, is the outward expression. Nobody would have ever known the way that God had blessed them with their wealth because they didn't put on that front or facade.
Yeah.
And also nobody would have seen the fact that they literally gave their house away. No cost. So I just, I don't know, I think it's brilliant.
I also love what you talked about there for a second when you talked about like doing things rather than accumulating stuff.
Yeah.
When Monica and I got married, one of the things we talked about was like, man, we're going to have birthdays and we're going to have Christmases and we're going to have anniversaries. And then like eventually we're going to run out of things to like get for each other. Cause and like, even like, especially like there are moments throughout the year where it's like, man, I really want or need this thing and I won't have to wait for my birthday or Christmas to do that. And so I'm just, you know, if we can afford it, I'm going to get it, you know? But we wanted to be experienced people instead. You know, so like if we're going to gift you with something, I want to gift you with a memory.
Yeah.
You know, I want to gift you with an opportunity to be able to look back together and celebrate what the Lord has done through experience with other people and together in the past. And so that's allowed for some like creativity and gift giving. And I think we're getting into gifts and lifestyle maybe more than simplicity. I don't know. But I think that's great is just to like focus on building memories with people rather than accumulating stuff, because stuff burns, you know, but memories and even like time together worshiping the Lord and celebrating the fact that you get to do life with His people and that like you can't take that away. That's eternal. You know, that's eternal. And so Jacob, I'd love to hear, again, going back to our first question, how do you practice simplicity?
I think honestly, like, I'm struggling to find like specific examples, but I think honestly, it's just asking myself, like before I buy anything or before I go and do X, Y, or Z, I always just stop and ask myself why. Yeah. Like why am I doing this? I think a lot of the opposite of simplicity, I guess complexity and just crying our lives. I think a lot of times that happens because our motives are to either appear a certain way or it's to, honestly, I think a lot of times we can fill our lives with stuff because it gives us this false sense of control. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of that too. Like, I mean, just you going back to your example of that family in Nebraska, like how they lived so their version of simplicity. Yes, they enjoyed what God had given them. Like it wasn't at all, being legalistic about it. Like, okay, we can't spend this money. Like it wasn't at all of that. It was allowing themselves to not worship the stuff. Yeah. So that their ears could be open to what God was calling them to do and then can live generously. Like I think that's a lot of times what happens is we fill our lives with stuff and then we end up feeling like we have this weird sense of control, almost like it makes us feel like we're in the driver's seat, and then all of a sudden our ears are closed to what God's calling us to do.
Yeah.
And life just becomes all about us. So I think for me, a lot of times I am no exemption from that. Like I'm no, I'm not exempt from that whatsoever. I think we can all get caught up in that comparison game or get caught up in the control game. And so for me, honestly, it's just asking why. I know for me, like just one example, and if I can get specific, like, so for me, like the shoes I'm wearing right now are from Walmart. They just are. Yeah, that's not like God. I know. Literally, I've
got some good stuff though.
Walmart stepped up the shoe game.
Yeah,
like it's not because I feel this like strong conviction, like okay, I have to get my shoes from Walmart. I have to get cheap shoes or anything like that. It's just for me. I think naturally, I just don't really feel a draw toward the more expensive stuff. I think it's a little bit of that for me and just my personality.
Sure.
But I think there's also a part of it where if I were to chase the more expensive thing, I know for me, it would be because I want to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And it would be, that would be the only purpose. It wouldn't be getting the more expensive thing for me wouldn't cause me to worship. It would cause me to look at myself.
Right.
And so for me, just kind of going for the more simple thing, going for the cheaper thing, sometimes for me, I think allows me to worship. So that's kind of what it looks like for me. And again, I to your point, I love how you mentioned the extremes of this, because it's absolutely true. I mean, you mentioned like the Amish and Mennonite, but I mean, it's even true for even like minimalism.
Yeah.
Like that's a very real thing right now is, getting rid of all the stuff in your house. I'm living with one set of silverware and that's it. That's just like minimalist. I don't know how people do it, man.
Yeah.
Is that your wife? Do they ever ask you? My wife, she'll come to me, Caden, I think we could do it. What are you talking about? She's got like a picture of a 412 square foot box on her phone. I'm like, you're psycho, lady. No way.
Yo, we use like in my house, we got like one pan that we use for eggs, one pan that we use for like French toast, one pan that we use for everything else. Like it's like, there's no way. But I think we can err on that side, and I think we can become so legalistic about it when we're not careful. And I think in some ways we're falling for the same trap, just in the opposite way.
Yeah.
Like we're falling for the same, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm simple.
Yep.
And in reality, it's the exact same trap of just, maybe it's not more stuff. It's worshiping simplicity.
Yeah.
It's worshiping the lack of stuff.
Wow. Yep. Yeah.
And that is, in some ways, it's just a different God that you're worshiping.
Right.
It's just the opposite extremes. I think it's really important to mention that too. I think we can often get caught in when we start living in simplicity and we start being mindful of it. At least I find for me, my tendency is to take it to that extreme of getting legalistic. Like, okay, it's not just that I shouldn't. It's not that there's no purpose in buying the expensive thing. I feel like I shouldn't. There's something wrong if I were to do that. But in reality, it's fine. Like to Cain's point, like when God provides for us in specific ways, and we're able to worship God by going and enjoying something that He's created, that can be a beautiful thing. And so, I love that you brought that up.
Well, whether it's a multitude of things, or a multitude of people, when you have lots of things to worry about, that's when your life gets complex. And you said, like, I love when you said that the opposite of simplicity is complexity.
Yeah.
And the reality is our life is to be about one thing, and that's Jesus.
Yeah.
And so when you're thinking, you can go to either those extremes when you're thinking about all these people I need to impress, or even like to try to like make myself look good, like worshiping the simplicity, or I have to have all these things to feel full.
Yeah.
When our life is supposed to be about one thing, which is Christ, spreading the gospel. And I think that's what comes to my mind when I think about simplicity, is that every single facet of my life, everything that I have, every person in my life, like whether they're a believer or not, every appointment on my calendar, every dollar that I spend should be going towards the furthering of the gospel. And that doesn't mean you have to give every spare dollar to missions, and some of that needs to go towards refueling yourself, because the Lord designed you to experience the world and to like love it and to like have good things. He made food taste good for a reason, And so I think for me, what simplicity is just making as much in your life as possible about spreading the gospel and loving the Lord. Like because you have a soul focus, and that can play out in a lot of different ways, and even there are times that I'm so sorry,
dude, you're fired.
I need water.
What are we doing? The Cookie Monster came out.
I'm sorry, Doc Rivers over here, but
NBA reference.
It is, but yeah, I think that can even make your life look complicated. It can call you to some hard things, but at least you're focused, and at least you know what your life is about. And I mentioned a little bit ago, like having goals that are set in your life and being ambitious towards those goals are not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's godly ambition. It's good. But when the purpose is focused, that fills you with gratitude when those goals are accomplished.
Yeah.
Because you can be so thankful to the Lord that he is giving you the things that you need to serve him, and so that's just what comes to my mind when I think about simplicity, is making it about one thing, not about all these people and how I'm viewed by all of them, or about all this stuff and how much I can accumulate.
Yeah.
Because inevitably you're worshiping yourself and not the Lord. So
sure. Well, if I can touch on this too, because I love the way that Jacob's defined his idea of simplicity being the elimination of something that turns our attentions greater towards Jesus. And we just took a retreat with 10 of our students that we've got called Core Crew. So really the core of the ministry, of our student ministry. These students could talk forever about their integrity and the way that God's wired them and just the giftings that they have. And so we're pouring into these students. We just took a 3.5-day retreat to Hocking Hills. We got an Airbnb, and it was incredible what God did. Every morning on our itinerary, we had set aside 1 hour. So they studied 1st and 2nd Timothy before we got there. Yeah. We spent Saturday from 6 p.m. till Sunday at 6 p.m. fasting. So this is a really, really cool experience. Actually, not one of our students had fasted before. And it timed itself out with Chris's message on fasting. So it's so special the way that the Lord worked. Yeah. We go into this retreat, and every morning we had a different passage from 1st or 2nd Timothy that we studied together from 8 to 9 a.m. From 9 to 10, then we would come together collectively and talk about it. So Monday that had happened, and it was done really well. The Lord was just moving. By Tuesday, here's what had happened. We had started in the Word at 8 a.m. We didn't come together till almost 10 o'clock. We had then talked for well over an hour.
Wow.
Which then turned into prayer. By the time we were done, we had spent 4.5 hours in the Word, in community and fellowship with others, and then in prayer with each other.
Amen.
It wasn't this manufactured experience or forced, like, all right, we're doing this. Welcome to basic training of the Bible.
Sure.
It was like, man, God's just here and moving. And the thing that was so special for me was I just got to look around at our students and help them realize that this could be the day today. Because the reality for us was nothing in our lives changed other than the fact that we cleared our schedules and made time to just be present with the Lord.
Yeah.
Granted, we were sleeping in a different location, but that was it. We had our clothes, we had our food, we had our shoes, we had a house over our head. Like everything that we needed, we had, the Lord provided.
Yeah.
But I think the elimination of what their calendars were, drawing that back to say, I'm available for the next 3.5 days, opened them up to see something that they had never experienced. And I think it's in those spaces where we eliminate and die to even ourselves in the good things. Yeah. It's Luke 9:23, take up your cross and follow me, dying to ourselves, killing our flesh to say, all right, Lord, I'm just making myself available. And for them, killing their flesh looked like, all right, I'm getting rid of what's on my calendar to prioritize this time away with other students. And then look what God did. Yeah. And it was incredible. Like that is the epitome of what simplicity feels like in my life right now. Yeah. Is, Lord, where is it that I'm pursuing something that I need to just kill in order for you to fill that space in my life?
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like the benefits of simplicity and sacrifice are very similar.
Sure.
Because it's like I'm giving something up to honor the Lord, and to receive the things that I couldn't receive from him, because the spaces that are empty now that I've given something up couldn't be filled by what the Lord wants to give. And so you're creating space in your heart for him to move. And I think that's fantastic.
It was incredible.
Yeah, so dude. I would love to hear more from those students about Like
Student podcast coming soon, maybe.
Interesting. I like it.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Yeah, again, I'd love to hear just like their experience from that time. Even just like the fact that like our generation and they're now the next generation of people that have grown up in probably the most complicated world ever, with instant access to the entire world,
sure.
Through our phones and stuff like that. And so being able just to kind of shut that out for some time and fast from that, to sacrifice that time even in their summer, because that's when you're supposed to have fun,
right.
It's when you're free, but then inevitably seeing like this is worth way more.
I gotta touch on that.
anything.
You said, have fun because this is when we're free.
Yeah.
The most free space that they found was when it was the most simple, which was therefore the most fun that they had. Like, it was just wild how the Lord works in that. It's almost like he knows what he's doing sometimes. It's just wild to me.
It makes me think of, and this is, again, I'm spoiling the entire message that I'm preaching on Sunday, but
Well, they'll hear this after the message.
I guess that's true. This is like
You're
time
spoiling it for
travel.
us.
Yeah, I'm spoiling it for you guys. This is you're welcome. It reminds, like, in Philippians 4, where Paul's writing Philippians. He's literally sitting in a prison cell, basically waiting to die, has nothing. The Philippians just gave him a really generous gift to fund his ministry, and he addresses that. He says, he basically says, I rejoice in the Lord greatly because of the gift that you gave me. He basically says thank you, and then he clarifies in verse 11, not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I've learned in whatever situation I am to be content. And he follows that up. He goes on in verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yeah.
That even right here, I got nothing but Jesus, and that's enough.
Yeah.
The stuff helps me feel a little bit more comfortable. Like the stuff I'm grateful for the gift that y'all gave me. I'm grateful for the stuff. There's nothing wrong with the stuff. But as long as I got Jesus, honestly, I have all that I need, but I also have more than I could ever ask for, because when we have less, it causes us to see Jesus as more, and causes us to see Jesus as there's a level of clarity and a level of closeness that we see Jesus with whenever there's just less going on.
Right.
To your point about the core crew retreat, like when we just block out the noise, block out the stuff, we see Jesus a little bit more closely.
100%.
And that's better than anything else we can fill our lives with. It's better than any pair of shoes, better than any experience, better than anything else.
Yeah.
I've just got Whitney Houston. I have nothing in my mind right now. Just on repeat. I got nothing. Come on.
You don't want to hear me try that.
I know.
Yeah. Maybe off camera.
I can't even talk without getting a frog in my throat, so I'm not even going to try Whitney.
Do you guys feel like you struggle with this idea of simplicity? Like, has the Lord convicted your heart at all through this process of talking with each other? Like you could live a more simple life or be more obedient to the Lord through that.
Yeah. I feel like it. In some ways, I think the hardest part is trying to do that in a world, and specifically in a nation where that is totally the opposite of the way the world is, where every street you go down, it's 5 billboards telling you what you don't have. Every time you pull on your phone, it's reminders of what you don't have. Literally everywhere we look, it's there, and it's like I feel like it's a moment by moment choice to say, like, to ask, hey, is this something I need, or is this something that would make me feel more in control, or is this something that would make me look better? Yeah. I think it's definitely an uphill battle for sure.
100%.
I definitely do. And I think it's from maybe a perspective of wanting to feel like I'm a good provider. It's like maybe not even necessarily for stuff that I want as much, because I definitely have things that I want, and like I'm not depriving myself of much. I definitely should focus on filling the holes in my heart with the Lord, and not with things or even experiences. It's like, man, I really don't want my wife or my daughters to go without, and because that for some reason feels like I'm fulfilling this thing I'm supposed to be, when the Lord is our ultimate provider, when he is the one who gives us everything. So I remember a couple years ago, we were getting ready to have our first daughter, and we really needed a new car. Our cars were just like done, and I didn't feel comfortable putting my kid in either one of our cars. And I really wanted a Toyota RAV4. I really wanted it. And
Dude, that's like not even a yellow flag. That's like how dark can you get red flag, bro? What?
I don't know what it was, but like, so Monica wanted one, and like I felt like at the time, which it's a Toyota. It's not like I'm getting her like a
Rolls
really
Royce. Yeah, right.
But like at the time, I remember thinking like, man, like I really don't want to go into debt to buy this car. I really don't want to like have to. I don't know. And I remember seeing other people driving in their RAV4s around Mansfield, thinking like, I'll never
happy.
I'll never be able to give this to my wife, and I felt like a failure. I remember like this is crazy. And again, I know it's a RAV4. It's not like a super nice car, but it'll go forever. So it is a nice car, and I want to be thankful to the Lord for that. Be simple, Jake. But I remember thinking like, man, like if I could provide this car for my wife before we have this child, like I will feel like such a boss and a provider, and like I gotta hustle to try to figure it out, like figure out how to get my wife in this vehicle. And even at the time we were looking for a house that we could grow into as well. And so I'm trying to like hit all of these milestones and accumulation basically of things to be able to grow a family in. And then the Lord provided the car, and he provided the house.
Praise God.
And I very rarely am thankful for it. I like it wasn't until actually I was having a conversation with somebody else about this a couple weeks ago that like it just like came to my head again of like, wow, like these are things that the Lord gave that at the time, like I thought it was going to be impossible, or at least put our family in a rough situation to be able to have the house in the neighborhood that we felt like we wanted to live in, and have the car that was going to be what in reality was a responsible purchase, because it was a vehicle that's safe and that, was going to last us for a long time.
Sure.
And so, there's a big conviction that comes out of like, man, how much do I forget the Lord? How much do I forget what he's done for me? How, like, even like being at this church, being a part of Crossroads, being a part of a healthy church that the Lord is using to spread the gospel. Like, how often am I thankful for that? How often am I thankful to get to be a part of this, and to see the ways that he's working in my life and in the lives of the people that are around me, when there's always what my mind tends to be filled with is always just the next hurdle to jump over, the next problem to solve, the next thing to fix. So to answer your question, absolutely, I really struggle with
There's a beauty in what you're talking about right now, which I think if we look at just culture as a whole, might summarize the general meta narrative around simplicity being there's this tension rooted in what's next. For our world. There's this discontentment that's always rooted in what's next. And I think the beauty in that is truly like, this is going to feel the most Christianese thing, but there's a reality for us as followers of Jesus that there's always a natural next step with what God has called us to that is actually rooted in contentment. And so we're asking and seeking for what's next. Well, what's the next car? My wife asked me this when I was so I enjoy golf, and I was kind of building my bag out last year, and I said, all right, hon, these wedges, I'm going to get new wedges next year. And she just looked at me and said, so at what point is your golf bag finished? And I was like, obviously it was a tongue-in-cheek conversation, but never. And there's always something new being released. There's this discontentment rooted in what's next. But I think the beauty and the flip side of that is finding contentment in the what's next with Jesus, because there's always something more that he wants for us. There's always something more that he's calling us to. And I think simplicity is the same. It's no different. And I think it's also we Riley and I are in the same space. For us right now, we're living on the back end of years of prayer for God. We wish that we had this. God, we're just asking out of the desires of our hearts. Would you bring us godly community? Boom, Jacob and Kate. God, would you bring us a church that we can thrive and flourish? And boom, and for so many prayers and things that we've sought the Lord for, and then we're looking at it, and there's still this wrestling of what's next. And it's like, man, I relate so heavily to the simplicity, just resting in, oh my goodness, Lord, because of Psalm 23:1, Lord, you're my shepherd. And because of that, I have all that I need. And just resting in that. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's your favorite Psalm. It's been a heart cry recently. Psalm 23:1. God, I have you, so I'm good. I've got all that I need, and you're going to provide.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't mean that nexts are bad. Like there are, that the Lord can bring challenge
For sure.
for us to step into having a deeper faith in Him to give us what we need for the next season.
Yeah.
And as your family grows and as your responsibilities grow and all those things, you need to be more equipped for things. There's so much purity and godliness in that. But the next is not what fulfills you. It's Christ in the midst of it. So guys, thank you so much for this conversation today. Jacob, thank you for preaching this weekend, praying against sickness for you so you don't get a frog in your throat like I did earlier.
I gotta go home and get rid of all my shoes now, I think. Sermon worked. Exactly.
Oh gosh, boys, thank you again so much.
Sure, man.
Guys, we hope that this podcast was a blessing to you. Next week we're going to be talking about the spiritual discipline of worship, so make sure to don't miss out on that as well. It's going to be a great podcast. It's going to be a great message and a great week of focusing on that discipline. And as you practice simplicity and as you pursue that, know that the celebration of the Lord and us discussing that is what's coming next, is worshiping how good He is. And so in the midst of practicing that, make sure you are just remembering how good He is and being grateful for what He's done in your heart and your life. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next time on This Week at Crossroads.